In the mid-1970s, basking in what he thought was his post-James Bond phase, Sean Connery starred in a trio of epic historical adventure films that cemented his legendary status outside the confines of the 007 universe. This trilogy kicked off in 1975 with John Milliss's The Wind and the Lion, followed later that year by John Huston's classic The Man Who Would Be King, and just a year later, Blobbin and Marian, where he portrayed an aging Robin Hood alongside a cast as legendary as the swashbuckler himself. After quitting Bond for the second time in Diamonds Are Forever, Connery didn't exactly light up the box office. Stars like Clint Eastwood, Robert Redford, Burt Reynolds and Steve McQueen eclipsed him in fan popularity as his star and hairline began to fade. Though he would reclaim A-list status in the mid-1980s, he started to develop a reputation as box office poison outside the Bond franchise. That said, the 70s saw him take on some of his most daring and memorable roles. When John Milius was cast in the Moroccan leader Rasooli for The Wind and the Lion, names like Omar Sharif and Anthony Quinn were tossed around, but Milius had only one man in mind.
He had more energy than Omar Sharif. Who else was going to play it?
Loosely based on a real-life incident, the film is set in the late 1800s and follows Rasooli as he kidnaps the American Eden Pedikaris and her 2 children to provoke an international incident.
The appeal of The Wind and the Lion for me was that it was such a great story about this character, and it was also based on a real person and Lords of the Atlas, the books about Rasooli. And to put him in that setting against Hoover in America, it was just a terrific combination.
President Theodore Roosevelt, played by Brian Keith in a scene-stealing performance, responds by putting a bounty on Rasooli's head.
America wants Pedikaris alive or Rasooli dead!
Pedikaris, meanwhile, was originally intended for Julie Christie and then Faye Dunaway, before the role ultimately went to Candice Bergen.
Do you pray often?
I pray to Mecca 5 times a day.
Is that so? I wonder how you find the time. You are so busy cutting off men's heads and kidnapping women and children.
If I miss the morning prayer, I pray twice in the afternoon. Allah is very understanding.
John Huston, this time in front of the camera, plays Secretary of State John Hay.
What is it that you want, Theodore?
What do I want? I want respect. That's what. Respect for human life and American property. And I'll send the Atlantic Squadron to Morocco to get respect.
That's illegal.
Why spoil the beauty of a thing with legality?
Bond fans, meanwhile, may not immediately recognize Vladek Sheeble, best known as Spectre's devious strategist, Kronstein, in From Russia with Love, portraying an equally sinister character, the Bashur. One of the film's standout elements is Jerry Goldsmith's majestic score, which earned him an Academy Award nomination, though he lost out to John Williams for Jaws. Goldsmith's composition perfectly captures the epic vision Milius was aiming for, and he would go on to score several more Connery films, including Medicine Man, where he inadvertently inspired Connery to don his ponytail hairstyle.
This is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off.
Milius, a true alpha male, was the man behind Dirty Harry's famous "Do You Feel Lucky" punk line, and was instrumental in persuading Connery to star in The Hunt for Red October by offering to write all of his great speeches.
Once more, we play our dangerous game. A game of chess against our old adversary, the American Navy. I think John Milius is an exceptional writer. I think he's a better writer than he is a director.
Milius also served as the inspiration for John Goodman's character, Walter, in The Big Lebowski.
Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules? Market zero!
While The Wind and the Lion was a success, like every other film in 1975, it was ultimately dwarfed at the box office by Jaws. Still, it marked Connery's first truly cinematic break from 007, and he never looked more majestic on screen. Later that year, Connery teamed up with John Huston, behind the camera this time, and his great pal, Michael Caine, for what is considered one of their finest films, The Man Who Would Be King.
I've been trying to make this film. Originally, it was intended that Clark Gable and Humphrey Bogart play the parts that Sean Connery and Michael Caine are doing now. Connery and Caine are ideal.
The rogue British adventurers, Daniel Trevitt and Peachy Carnahan, couldn't have been more perfectly cast. And the only regret is that this would be the only time Connery and Caine would appear together on screen. Based on a short story by Rudyard Kipling, of whom Huston was a huge fan, The Man Who Would Be King was an adventure yarn made in the same vein as Huston's The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Set in 1882, it follows Trevitt and Carnahan as they roam British colonial India, pulling off scams.
Peachy worked out this dodge. We've used it before. You see, he's good with the lingo. He does the talking while I act dumb and balmy like. I've got so I can do the clowning pretty good now. I can twitch so as to put the fear of Allah into any good muscle.
They eventually cross paths with Kipling himself, played by Christopher Plummer, a last-minute replacement for Richard Burton. Though producers wanted to fire Plummer mid-production, Connery fought to keep him, literally, according to Plummer's biography.
We've been all over India. We know her cities, her jungles, her jails, and her palaces. And we have decided that she isn't big enough for such as we.
As their luck runs out in India, Trevitt and Carnahan devise an outrageous plan to trek to the far corners of Afghanistan, hoping to follow in the footsteps of Alexander the Great and crown themselves kings.
They decide that they'll come up to Kafiristan, which means the country of no gods, and they'll, with their army training, teach them and usurp the king.
We'll go there. We'll say to any chief we can find, do you want to vanquish your foes? Of course you'll say, go to it. We'll seize his royal throne and loot the country 4 ways from Sunday.
Huston described Daniel Trevitt and Peachy Carnahan as two men who were only complete when together.
The scene with Michael and I, there was a girl comes in and he's lying down, she starts wafting her sarong and she's got nothing on underneath, so then he's lying there and I'm outside drilling the troops, goes the good part. Well, originally it was the other way around. He was out drilling the troops, but Huston wanted to change that. And so we changed it. And there was another part we changed, and when we talked about it, he said it wouldn't matter what he changed in the film because the way he'd conceived it was of one person, the one man, and therefore the one half complemented the other. And that's why the relationship worked so well.
So, thank God you arrived.
Huston, ever the old-school director, referred to Connery and Caine by their character names throughout the production and gave them unprecedented freedom to improvise, something that took both actors by surprise.
I said to him one day, he never said anything to you, he never gave you any direction. And I said, John, I said, you never say, other directors are always telling me this and what to do. He said, you get paid a lot of money for doing this, Michael. He said, you don't need me to tell you what to do.
The film, shot in France and Morocco, featured several local actors cast on the spot. Famously, the bride Trevitt later attempts to take is played none other than Michael Caine's wife, Shakira.
In the film that we got opening at Christmas, he winds up with my wife.
Yeah, that's the way
in the film, yeah.
I got a better deal.
Rifleman Machendra Bahadur Gurung, known to my regiment as Billy Fish.
John Huston had wanted first to make this film in 1956. 20 years later, he got it exactly right. Sean Connery, Michael Caine, and me playing Billy Fish.
Critics were united in their praise, calling it a return to form for Huston and ranking it alongside his best work.
I liked The Man Who Would Be King. I liked it most of all because John Huston wasn't reluctant to make it into a good, swashbuckling adventure story.
Connery and Caine have great senses of humor, good comedic actors. I think Connery's sense of humor really made the James Bond pictures a little more than just action films.
However, award nominations were surprisingly scarce. Huston and his co-writer received an Academy Award nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. But neither Connery nor Caine were considered.
You've played delicate, as Ed said, you're delicate type of roles.
Didn't you see me try to knock out Sean Connery in the movie?
No, I haven't seen that. Now,
Nothing delicate about that, I sure.
Did you play a kind of a Hellcat in this picture?
I nearly knocked him out. He knocks me out, of course, because he's bigger than I am. But I did try.
By the time Robin and Marion rolled around in 1976, Audrey Hepburn hadn't acted in 8 years. The story goes that her two sons persuaded her to break her retirement once they found out she'd be starring opposite James Bond.
I don't want you, Robin.
But you've got me. I like the way you look.
More than I can say for you.
The rest of the cast was stacked. Robert Shaw, riding high after Jaws, played the Sheriff of Nottingham. Nicole Williamson played Little John, and the rest of the cast was rounded out by Ian Holm, Dellum Elliott, Ronnie Barker, yes, that Ronnie Barker, and Richard Harris. Harris took on the role as a favour to Connery, 5 years after they co-starred in The Molly Maguires. Curiously, the role was originally offered to Charlton Heston, someone Harris absolutely despised after their time together on Major Dundee. Heston was also interested in playing the lead. Thankfully, the filmmakers turned him down. I mean, can you imagine an American playing Robin Hood?
Where does this intolerable hatred for me come from?
Richard Lester, best known for his Beatles films A Hard Day's Night and Help, as well as the Musketeers films, took the director's chair. Though many Robin Hood films had been made before, Robin and Marion was a far cry from the swashbuckling romps of the past. Here, Robin Hood and Little John are war-tired veterans of the Crusades. After narrowly avoiding execution by King Richard for refusing to attack unarmed women and children, they return to Sherwood Forest after 20 years, reuniting with Will Scarlet and Friar Tuck, only to find that their old adventures have become the stuff of legend.
Everywhere we go, they want to hear about the things you did.
We didn't do them.
I know that.
Meanwhile, Marion, now a nun, has moved on with her life.
You're angry.
Not with you. I haven't thought of you in 20 years.
Well, give me a smile and invite me in.
Come back tomorrow. I'll be gone. The sheriff's coming for me and I'm off to prison.
Connery and Hepburn's chemistry is undeniable, helped by the fact that they were almost exactly the same age. In fact, Hepburn was a year older. The romance is touching, showing two lovers rediscovering each other after decades apart, while also accepting that they're no longer young.
But if there were a way to turn time back just 5 minutes, I'd give my soul to do it.
The relationship between Connery's Robin and Shaw's Sheriff of Nottingham is one of mutual respect, rather than the usual two-dimensional hero-villain dynamic.
My Lord Sheriff?
Robin, still not dead.
Not for want of trying. He's not too intelligent, you know, Robin. In fact, he's the smart one, really, as a sheriff. And to expose it in that way, it starts off quite sort of jolly, and then eventually the reality of the tale prevails, and you realise that, my God, it's about somebody who's really over the hill, who's not too smart, who's a boy at heart, with some kind of charisma, and I'm sure that's how it was.
I'm one champion. And I'm the other.
Their climactic duel also marked the second time the two actors fought to the death on screen, after their thrilling train fight in From Russia with Love. John Barry composed the soundtrack, and, as you expect from the 5-time Academy Award winner, it's majestic and melodic. Originally, Michael Legrand, who had delivered excellent scores for Lester's Musketeers films, was brought in to compose the music. but his soundtrack was ultimately rejected. Ironically, when Legrand did score Never Say Never Again, it became one of the most criticised aspects of the film. I can't help but wish that that soundtrack had been rejected in the same way. But that's a topic for another episode. For the record, Lester wasn't too happy with Barry's score either. But after working with the Beatles, I guess his bar was set pretty high.
I've known your kind all my life. You're everything I meant to fight. You're the enemy. You gobble good red meat, and we get bread and cheese. The laws can't touch you, and there's no crime you can be punished for. And we can shoot a deer and have our eyes put out.
Robin and Marian received strong critical acclaim, but it didn't achieve the financial success it deserved. Maybe American audiences in particular may not have been ready to embrace aging icons in a raw, unglamorized, medieval setting.
I think that Robin and Marian, in fact, is on a par with The Man Who Would Be King as a complete script. And rather sad that the picture was not a success at all, but it has become a success in terms of, I don't know why, but it's been sort of resurrected as a semi kind of cult movie now very quickly, quicker than any of the others, like, say, The Hill took much longer to come about.
Still, the film remains a true gem in both Connery and Hepburn's filmographies.
God keep you well.
If he so chooses.
Many years later, the two icons were honoured together as Commanders of Arts and Letters, France's most prestigious award for excellence in the arts. Of course, this wasn't the last time we'd see Connery don historical wardrobe, but this trilogy helped cement his legendary status. He would later portray royalty in Time Bandits and First Night as King Arthur. And his paycheck for a brief cameo in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, was reportedly so large it may have covered the entire budget of Robin and Marian.
I will not allow this wedding to proceed.
My lord.
Unless I am allowed to give the bride away.
Sean Connery was undeniably born to be the man to play kings.
I'd like to see you, Danny, with a gold crown on your head. If we could have found one that fitted it.